Next from Chicago, Governor Rauner holds a press conference along with victims of sexual abuse and legislators to discuss the bills he recently signed to combat human trafficking. This runs about 20 minutes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chicago Children's Advocacy Center. Thank you all for being with us today to celebrate this very important moment for victims of human trafficking, including sex trafficking of children in Illinois. I'm Shara Vet, the Executive Director of Chicago Children's Advocacy Center, and I'm very, very proud to lead a large group of professionals that are here committed to providing hope and healing for child sexual abuse and assault victims. We work in collaboration here with all the professionals necessary to effectively and efficiently investigate reports of child sexual abuse and protect children in our city. We share this beautiful, beautiful building with our 5 partners: the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, the Chicago Police Department, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, and Cook County Health and Hospital System, Strozier Hospital. We are 130 experts and professionals here under one roof, working as the only collaboration of its kind in Chicago, a collaboration that is essential to protecting abused children and restoring lives. Our collaboration also includes members of Lurie Children's Hospital and Comer Children's Hospital, who along with Strozier Hospital provide forensic medical expertise for reports of physical abuse. Each year in this building, we respond to more than 2,000 reports of child sexual abuse and assault in Chicago. That's 15% of the cases that are seen in the state of Illinois. This marks the 15th anniversary of being here for the children and families who need us. And in that time, we have served more than 30,000 children and families. We know that more than 90% of victims of sexual abuse are hurt by a trusted adult in their lives. We also know that victims of sexual abuse are more vulnerable to becoming victims of sex trafficking, both as children and as adults. Children who are wards of the state are also more vulnerable to becoming trafficking victims, as are children and young adults who are transgendered, gay, lesbian, or bisexual. The state of Illinois took a monumental step in 2010 by passing the Safe Harbor Law, decriminalizing child prostitution and doing away with the term altogether. The Cook County Human Trafficking Task Force was created to combat this serious issue, along with other forms of human trafficking. As one of the members of the Cook County Human Trafficking Task Force, we understand that it takes a collaborative, multidisciplinary effort to identify victims, effectively respond, and provide protection and intervention for all those who are victims. We are grateful to Governor Rauner and the bill's other legislative champions for taking action to support these children, our children, and all victims of human trafficking that are in desperate need of intervention. Thank you, Senator McConaughey and Representative Bellock, for being 2 of those champions and for being here today. We are eager to collaborate with our colleagues across the state so that we can all better serve these victims throughout Illinois. Again, thank you to the leaders who have made this legislation possible so that together we can create a statewide system of response that can effectively intervene with human trafficking and ensure the most vulnerable victims are provided the care they need. Thank you, and I would like to now introduce Julie Woodley.
It's a pleasure to be with all of you. I am the founder and director of Restoring the Heart Ministries, and I am a trauma therapist. And I am just delighted to speak on behalf of those women that have been sexually trafficked. I was sexually exploited by my father in the mountains of Montana. He was a very wealthy man and was also president of Rotary and would bring wealthy businessmen into the community, and I was a product of sexually trafficked to those men. I know just enough to know what it feels like to be sexually abused by so many, sold by my father to the neighbors as a sex toy and other men, enough to know the images that are so horrific that you lock them away tight. Enough to know the feelings of being trapped, feeling like a commodity, used goods, to be sold, feeling the worthlessness of being used by him and by other men. Big hands, big men, everything big. I'm small, I'm tiny, I have no voice, I'm speechless, and I'm gagged. Maybe I can disappear. Maybe if I can work hard, I can pay my own way. Won't have to be sold. So I scramble to work and work, out of breath, out of strength. Don't rest, you'll look worthless. So I take hot steaming baths as my tears flow and scrub until my skin is raw. To get rid of the filth left by big men, maybe I can scrub myself away. Scrub, scrub, scrub their touch away. The house becomes a war zone. Violence reigns. My head gets hit across against the fireplace. I'm threatened with guns. Slam, slam, scrub me away. I leave at 18, the day after I graduate from high school. Walk the 2 miles with only the clothes on my back, never to return. Scrub, scrub, make it all go away. I hit the street, selling myself sexually for a meal, a place to sleep, arms to hold me, a blur of men. Wash it all away. Scrub, scrub. One night, I planned to take my life, take it all away. People come around me, and they began to love me in a place that I never ever thought I would be. I began to have this incredible healing and restoration of my mind, of my heart, of my body. I began to trust people. I want to tell the women out there and the men, you are not to be sold. You need to know that you have a place that you will be loved. This is a group here of people that long to come alongside you and build you a place where you will be restored and you will be healed. I know I had those communities come around me, places like Ann's house, that is the long-term residential trauma-based care. They know what they're doing, and they know how to come around you, they know how to love you, and they know how to keep you safe. Thank you for considering coming into this home of Ann's house and other places where you will be safe and you will be honored in who you are. I can tell you firsthand, your dignity will be restored.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Julie, for your story. I'm so grateful that you came today because you put a face on this issue for all of us that know how strong we need this bill. And I want to thank Governor Rauner for signing this bill today for us, because this is a huge step forward for all the people who have been sexually abused and for their stories that are very similar to Julie's. And without the governor and without Senator McConaughey and all the legislators who worked on this issue, we feel that this issue will move forward, raise the awareness, because there is a coalition in Cook County. We knew that when we started this, but we want the whole rest of the state and all the rest of the agencies throughout the state to be able to work with us and work with the children and the grown adults, men and women, who have been sexually abused. And I just want to thank Shar also for this Children's Advocacy Center. It is really phenomenal what you do, and thank all the staff for all you do every day, your dedication and commitment. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Senator McConaughey.
Thank you, Representative Belloc. Patty, thank you. Because Patty is actually the individual who first recognized the need to put a task force together as a way to begin to make a real difference. So I'm very pleased to be here today and as a part of that collaboration and the fact that it's a bipartisan legislative effort. And I thank Governor Rauner for joining the fight by signing this legislation. And Julie, words can't even express the admiration of your courage, your willingness to tell us your story. And as Representative Belloc said, you really do put a face to something that so many people either don't understand how real it is or think it just simply doesn't exist. House Bill 2822 designates a new human trafficking task force to address this growing problem across our state. Modern slavery. Modern slavery, which takes the form of sexual exploitation and abuse, is a sobering reality in our society. In the past decade alone, the National Human Trafficking Resource Center has identified nearly 30,000 human trafficked victims. In recent years, we've seen human trafficking crime increase, not just here in Chicago, but in our suburbs and all throughout Illinois. We can no longer deny that innocent lives are destroyed every single day. I've learned one of the best ways we can help as public servants is to raise awareness of the issue among law enforcement and the general public. This task force has the critically important task of developing a strategic, comprehensive, statewide plan to tackle what is an incredibly complex public policy and public safety issue. A greater understanding of what is driving this crime and knowing the signs of potential trafficking cases will translate into more effective intervention efforts. Additionally, improved coordination between government, law enforcement, and independent organizations will improve the quality of care that survivors receive. This task force is just a first step, but it is an important first step we are taking here today. I want to recognize the true agents of change in this effort who really have been on the forefront of that. The Cook County Human Trafficking Task Force Steering Committee, the Salvation Army, Frank Mazzolini, wherever you are, Frank, there you are, of Promise Program, Julie Woodley of Restoring the Heart Ministries, and of course 2 other legislators who were driving forces on this were Representative Jessel and Senator Toy Hutchinson. I look forward to moving this task force forward, which I am certain will translate into increased public awareness, better collaboration in the fight against human slavery, and better quality of care and recovery for victims of this heinous crime. I want at this time to introduce the newest champion of an effort to eliminate human trafficking, Governor Rauner.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This is a very important day, very important step. Julie, thank you for your strength and your dedication to taking tragic experiences, horrific crimes committed against you, and trying to help others. Take a tragedy and turning it into a better life for others. Thank you for that. Shara, thank you for your leadership. Senator, Representative, thank you for your leadership. I would like to commend leaders at the City of Chicago for their advocacy and their already existing work to try to battle human trafficking. I'd like to thank the leaders in Cook County for their efforts to battle human trafficking. We need to take those efforts, support them, expand them, and take them statewide. Illinois, we are blessed in the sense we are a center of transportation, we're a center of immigration, we're a center of commerce, and as a result, we have people coming, going, moving, and many of them are vulnerable. Many of them have language barriers, many of them have economic hardships, many of them have emotional challenges, and human traffickers can take advantage of them. And we cannot let this happen. It's a growing problem, and it is horrific, ugly, outrageous cruelty, outrageous crime. And we've got to take every action we can to stop it. That's what this bill takes an important step to do. It forms a task force of legislators, leaders from the Chicago Regional Human Trafficking Task Force, our director from the Illinois State Police, brings them together with an effort to be comprehensive and recommend strategic, impactful solutions we can take statewide to put an end to this horrific crime. The goal is to have this task force make its recommendations by next summer, with a complete plan put in place by June of next year. It's an important step. This is going to be a long-term battle, but we have got to end this horrible crime. Bring justice for everyone. Stop the abuse of our women and our people who are vulnerable. Thank you, and with that, I'll sign this legislation. With that, standing here, if there are on-topic questions the media might have about this issue, any of us could address them, and if not, we'll take a break, and I know there may be other topics people in the media love to focus on, and I'll try to answer those questions, but maybe in a slightly different location or different context.
Governor, since State's Attorney Alvarez and others have been focusing on this issue and doing things about it, prosecuting literally for years, why do you suppose we're just taking the first step, the state's forming a task force now, and could there be more that you're doing in terms of actually addressing the root cause of this problem, as opposed to just setting a task force at this time?
Well, you know, it's my own view is, you know, better late than never. I think the state should have taken action more decisively, more strategically, you know, years ago. This has been growing for a while. So we've got to do what we can. And, you know, Chicago has the concentration of transportation, concentration of immigration, concentration of language diversity, and so has concentration here. But these problems exist in many of our metropolitan areas, in many communities around the state. And it's important to bring everybody from across the state of Illinois together to think strategically about how we can best deal with this. And I think we can learn from some of the good action that's been taken in Chicago and in Cook County, but we've got to do more. And I don't know if you have any other comments.
No, all I was going to add is that it is amazing across the state of Illinois where local law enforcement, even state's attorney's offices, really don't understand how prevalent this problem is. And so in order to be effective, if you're going to have an impact on individuals being trafficked, all law enforcement, state's attorneys, small communities, local mayors need to understand the signs and what to look for in trafficking. That collaboration and that coordination from the state level on down is really what is required, and communities that have been successful have really focused in on that collaboration. So that's why we think that this task force is a first step to really building a protocol that can be used at the state and local level.
Have there been less formal tries to bring people together, bring key players together on this issue
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I mean, I don't want to suggest that people aren't aware of this issue, but in pockets, you know, here in the city of Chicago, there's a very aggressive effort through the Chicago Task Force to really be proactive. But because this is a crime that is committed across the state, this really is the first time that there will be an attempt to coordinate local law enforcement with state agencies and agencies in the task force that already works here in Chicago to get all of that working together. Again, as I said before, that is the only way we can be really effective at stopping the supply, because that's what you have to do. You have to eliminate the supply of individuals being trafficked, and the only way you do that is with a statewide strategic initiative.
Well, I think there's been a lot of education over the course of the last 20 years that more and more people understand that this is a problem and that sexual abuse is a chronic issue that does lead to more problems down the road, like sex trafficking, like more vulnerability to these kids as they get older. I think what the task force, the purpose of the task force isn't to understand that the problem exists. I think there's a knowledge of the problem existing. It's how do we get everybody who needs to be involved in solving the problem together to do it in a collaborative way. There's pockets of it throughout the state. Children's advocacy centers are an example of that because there's 38 across the state, and we all work collaboratively with law enforcement, DCFS, et cetera, and prosecution to make this happen. I think using the models that exist out there, like the CAC model and like the Cook County Human Trafficking Task Force, this is the next step, to really bring this to a statewide level. Developing a collaboration and a task force is no easy thing to do. It takes a lot of cooperation, a lot of willingness to let down your individual maybe protocols or individual desires to make things happen. So I do believe that you have to start with this. Start with a studying of the problem, not to say yes or no, it does or doesn't exist, but look at those root causes, as you mentioned, and how we can get in at that point in time with all the existing entities that are responsible for that the state. So I think it is really a critical first step.
I'd like to address that issue, just giving an example of what we've done on heroin. Because 7 years ago, there was hardly anybody in the state that realized heroin and opioid usage was a problem. We took that on. We had a task force. we ended up with the biggest reform in heroin, the bill, I think it was Senate Bill 1. The governor was all for that. And we raised the awareness and started to address the issue. Now we have county-wide organization associations working on it, DuPage, Cook, all together. But that issue now is on the cover of every single magazine, every single legislature throughout the country. And that's how things happen. And I think that this will happen with human trafficking, because you could probably sit around a table down, in central Illinois or southern Illinois, and yes, they know about human trafficking, but they don't know to the extent, and they don't know what agencies are working towards it. So I think the heroin issue is a great example of that, because 5 years later, everybody in Illinois is talking about that problem, and not just talking about it, they're addressing the issues with it, and so has our legislature under the governor. Thank you.